An indefinite strike nationwide, which began today. The association says that the industrial action is to protest persistent delays in the implementation of the agreed conditions of service. The decision comes despite a directive from the National Labour Commission ordering the association to suspend its planned strike and return to the negotiation table. In a letter dated the 5th of March 2026, CLOCSAG indicated that the issues remain unresolved even after it served notice of the intended strike from today. Executive Secretary of CLOCSAG, Beatrice Adu, says the association had no option but to proceed with the strike, which, like I did tell you, began today.
Executive Council, NEC, of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, Ghana, CLOCSAG, met to consider the state of the negotiation on unique salary structure and other conditions of service for the staff of the civil service and the local government service. Taking the NEC through the journey of the unique salary structure and other conditions of service for the staff of the civil service and the local government service, which started as far back as 2019, culminating in the signing of two separate MOUs, the NEC observed that the staff of the services are being taken for granted as reminders to the Ministry of Labour, Jobs and Employment, and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission have not been responded to. Government has been mute over their own promises to implement the unique salary structure and other conditions of service with effect from 1st January 2023. In the light of the above, NEC decided to declare an industrial action to back the demand for better conditions of service for its members. NEC decided further that should the government fail to honor its side of the bargain, the constituents of CLOCSAG will embark on a nationwide strike with effect from 9th March 2026.
And you heard the Executive Secretary of CLOCSAG, Beatrice Adu. Meanwhile, the Minister for Labour and Employment and Labour Relations, Rashid Pelpo, has appealed to the association to suspend the strike and resume negotiations with the government.
To CLOCSAG, let me thank you for the last meeting we held with your leadership. Let me also thank you for your determination to help us develop this country. Every single effort anybody makes in the name of your welfare and our collective welfare is in the interest of the collective national interest. So I know that you want to work, and I know that you have challenges because you have demands that are not yet met. But let me tell you, going on strike is not the final solution to it. Let's keep talking. So far, when you announce your strike, we have met as a leadership only once. I think that we should continue to discuss and continue to work together. And let's get to a point when you will say that, look, you will go on strike. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. But I do respect your decision. When you announce your strike, I called the Labour Commission to find out what you have brought to them, and what their responses were. They had no responses because they couldn't be informed before your latest strike. And I invited the Fair Wages. It was the same story. So everybody was like, we're taken by surprise. Let's open up and let's talk. I know the worker there is pushing his leader to do something to make sure we hear you. Without doing anything at all, we still hear you. And I can assure you we are working at your program. So please, get a meeting, return to your work, and let's talk. Something positive is coming. But once you are on strike, it spoils everything. And I don't want anything to spoil. I want us to talk. I want us to keep talking. And then we produce results for you. So I wish you the best and pray that before the 9th you announce that you are no longer going to go on strike.
Well, they did announce that they have embarked on the strike starting from today. Let's cross over now to the Ashanti region where the strike has taken full effect. Ibrahim Abubakar is our correspondent. He joins us live on the phone. Ibrahim, what has been the immediate impact of the CLOCSAG strike on public services and operations in your region?
Well, Beatrice, when you move to most of these offices, you realize that the strike has indeed disrupted public administration services, because you realize most of the workers have withdrawn their services, and we know their concerns already. So, especially at the BEF and DEF registry in Kumasi, the busy premises were unusually quiet, with empty chairs replacing the usual crowd there. You also entered some of the offices and realized that staff have vacated their posts in compliance with the strike directive issued by CLOCSAG. The same situation was also observed at the Controller and Accountant General, where offices remain closed as the staff have stayed away from their office. And abroad, the many district and municipal assemblies also routine administrative duties such as processing of official documents, coordination of government programs, and even providing essential public services have all seen a temporary suspension due to the absence of staff. You go there, for some of the institutions, we have national service staff there, but the kind of service they will be able to provide you is quite limited. So it's as if they can't even do the most essential service that people come there to seek for. So people who require some of these services have been left stranded, and they are just hoping that at least by the close of the day or tomorrow, the government will be able to sit down with these members and judge with them, so that we see the members of CLOCSAG returning to their various workplaces. I engaged with some of the stranded clients who came there this morning, and let's listen to what they have shared with me.
The strike by the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOCSAG.
Your birthday certificate, but they are on strike, as you said. I didn't see anyone here, so I don't know whether they will come or they will not come. You see, as a worker, we need government to help them so that they can also come and help us.
The situation is not different here at the Controller and Accountant General's Department, where offices remain closed as staff have stayed away from their desk in line with the directive. Across many district and municipal assemblies, routine administrative duties such as processing official documents, coordinating government programs, and providing essential public services have been temporarily suspended due to the absence of staff.
And you heard that some people who have been affected by the strike of CLOCSAG. Let's cross over now to TV, where my colleague Daniel Opoku, our Labour Affairs correspondent, is engaging my colleagues there.
Be able to convince the leadership of CLOCSAG for them to call up the strike. And now, as I speak to you now, the National Labour Commission has also issued a statement from the close of last week, asking the leadership of CLOCSAG to appear before them on Wednesday for them to sit and thrash out the various issues that they have raised. So all these issues are at play, and the leadership of CLOCSAG is ready. When it's straight, they are ready, and they are poised to meet the leadership of government and also the National Labour Commission to be able to resolve their problem. But the National Labour Commission, negotiations are not done at that place. Negotiations have been done and concluded and signed. Now it is left with the implementation to be done by government. So the government is able to convince them and rolls out any proper payment schedule. That will be very convincing to the leadership of CLOCSAG. Then obviously they have to rescind their decision, call off the strike, and resume work.
Right then, Daniel, I'm sure we'll continue to monitor this meeting. And
my colleague Daniel Opoku interacting with Mawina Egbeta on TV just right now, and we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. The ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, Reverend John Intim Fojo, has called on the Ghana Armed Forces to conduct a risk assessment to determine whether it is safe to continue participating in the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Lebanon. His call follows a weekend attack on the Ghanaian contingent serving under the United Nations mission, which left 4 officers injured, with 1 reported to be in critical condition. The attack occurred amid escalating exchanges between the Israel Defense Forces and the Lebanon-based Hezbollah armed group. Ghana has condemned the attack and has officially and formally petitioned the United Nations to investigate the incident. Speaking on Sunrise, the Asin South Member of Parliament supported the government's decision to petition the UN. However, he stressed that it is equally important for the Ghana Armed Forces to assess the safety of the mission and determine whether conditions on the ground remain secure for Ghanaian troops, just to prevent another attack which could claim lives.
We support the Ministry of Foreign Affairs petition that they've written to UN to immediately investigate this matter, go into it in detail, and to be able to know what actually happened. That is a step that we are keenly following. We would urge the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be very insistent so that this doesn't get swept under the carpet. We want Ghana Armed Forces also to assess the situation, to advise, is the place safe to continue to guarantee the safety of our soldiers? Do we need to evacuate them immediately? We need that, information. We need that risk assessment to be conducted. So the geopolitics of the Middle East, is it still wise and advisable to keep that? Will UN be able to guarantee the protection of our soldiers, peacekeeping, ensuring peacekeeping in that region?
And you had the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, Reverend John Intim Fojo. Let's bring you some more here. And there is growing concern that the ongoing war waged by the U.S. and Israel against Iran could disrupt inflation gains in the country and across the African continent. That's after crude prices crossed the $100 mark over the weekend. The highest prices have risen since 2022 during the onset of the Russia-Ukraine war. Brent crude, which is the benchmark, is hovering around $104 per barrel, signifying the expectation of a major jump in prices at the pump when the second pricing window kicks in. However, persons close to the government say that the current global shocks are not expected to have the impact experienced in 2022. Let's speak to Derek Harcher, who is a research analyst with the Institute for Energy Security. He joins us live on the line. Good afternoon to you, sir. Hopefully you can hear us. $100 a barrel now. In terms of the jump, what are we looking at?
Good afternoon, my sister, and thanks for the opportunity. So where we find ourselves now, above $100 per barrel, is quite gloomy. Within the next price window, which is coming from the 16th of March, we expect prices to go up. But be as it may, it is above $100 per barrel. But what is the government's effort in probably trying to protect the consumer so that that kind of quantum, or let me say that significant increment that has gone up on the international market will not be felt at the pumps. And so for the next price we do, automatically prices will definitely go up. But the extent to which it will go up is what the government must be able to find a way to be able to intervene so that what we are expecting, where prices goes up and then it leads to inflation, we do not expect that. So what the government can do within the shortest time is what we are all anticipating.
We've heard the government say that we shouldn't expect things to get as bad as it did in 2022. How realistic is that assurance?
All right. So the last one I spoke about is that the kind of internal measures that we have is quite positioned Ghana better than what we used to experience in 2022 because currently we've seen that the Lebanon refinery is now being operationalized. We've also seen that the Senso is also being operationalized. Quite back in 2022, the cedi to the dollar was quite, the depreciation was very high trading at almost 16, 17 Ghana cedis. Today, it's around something close to 11 Ghana cedis. So the internal mechanism that we have is far better than what we used to experience in 2022. But now it has gone above $100 per barrel. What can be done that the government can do right now is the cedi component, that is the exchange rate. So even though prices have gone up on the international market, let's assume that the government brings in a policy where it is able to auction dollars to the BDCs at a rate that is lower than what is being experienced on the interbank market. It means that the BDCs will have access to more foreign at a cheaper price, and then when they import petroleum products with this particular dollar, then that dire consequences that would have experienced at the various pumps will not be experienced. The reason being that if now price on the international market is above $100 per barrel, previously it used to be 65 towards 70, so that is like almost over 30%. Now, if prices are to go up on the local pumps, about 30%, then we are talking about 14, 15 Ghana cedis for a liter of petrol. But if the government is able to subsidize the cost of petroleum products at that particular rate, what it means is that even if prices are supposed to go up on the local pumps, it will go up probably by some 11 Ghana cedis, or let me say something close to 12 Ghana cedis. This will translate into some increase in price of goods and services, but it will not be the full impact that would have experienced, because if prices goes up, if transport price will go, price of goods and services will go, inflation rate from 3% will go above probably 7 or 10%. When that happens, it means that when it takes a longer period, the market women, they are easily able to increase price of goods and services. But if you ask them to reduce prices, it takes a longer period. So the government of the day should be more conscious enough to be able to stabilize the price at the gross pumps. If it will go up, it should not go up significantly, which will distort the market.
Aside from these things you've spoken about, what else would you expect from the government in order to reduce the impact of this ongoing war on Ghanaians?
And so the other impact that the government can also look at is one, we've seen that one of the components of the price build-up is what we call the Doomsday levy, or let me say that special 1 Ghana cedi, which is supposed to be a way to be able to take out the full cost of power generation. If you take that one out, then it means that it will also bring some respite to Ghanaians. But knowing that if you take it out, it will also now increase the government cost in terms of electricity tariff. That is going to happen from the second quarter, from April going. That is also another crisis going hanging. And so, for the meantime, what needs to be strengthened immediately is the dollar. Within the shortest and the medium term can be how the government can be able to increase its stock together with us and a lot of thermal refining. In the long run, this should give us another signal why there is a need and then an urgent need to be able to invest into our internal capacity, especially for that of toll, because it has become a necessary evil. We need to work on it, because without it, the country will never have an internal buffer. And such times like this do not announce itself. You will just get hit about it. But be as it may, it is better off than before. But let us be able to strengthen it. The government immediately should be able to auction dollars to the BDCs. Without this immediate short-term measure, the prices will escalate for the second pricing window for March.
Mr. Archer, thank you so much for speaking to us. And I have Derek Archer. He is with the Institute for Energy Security. Now, local rice farmers are calling on President John Mahama to establish an independent body to enforce his directive for institutions to prioritize the purchase of locally produced rice. The farmers say that despite the president's policy, which introduced last year and reiterated again this year, many public institutions and government appointees continue to ignore the directive, leaving huge quantities of locally produced rice without buyers. Spokesperson for the rice producers and processors in Ghana, Dr. Charles Nyaba, says the the situation is discouraging farmers and making rice farming unattractive to the youth. There's more in this report.
President Mahama expressed concern that several schools continue to purchase imported rice despite an earlier government policy encouraging institutions to source food items locally. Part of that policy specifically encouraged the purchase of locally produced rice to improve market access for Ghanaian rice farmers and reduce the country's dependence on imported food commodities. But the spokesperson for rice producers and processors in Ghana, Dr. Charles Naba, told TV3 News that appointees of the president have not enforced that directive to purchase local rice.
As we speak, majority of our members are still holding on with rice they produce in 2025 and 2024 on their farms. They could not even bring them to the nearest warehouses. We keep asking the question, the 200 million that was promised and released by the Minister of Finance, where have they bought the produce from? It is clear that they continue to buy from importers or continue to import them. Similar directives was given to the president. The bodies that matter to execute this, they never heeded. We were expecting that since the president himself knew that his appointees are failing him, the first thing for him to have done is to actually investigate, and if those people have to be set aside for new leadership to take over, then we would have been excited.
The former executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana noted that due to non-purchase of rice from farmers, some farms remain unharvested.
A lot of promises they made us to collect data from farmers, we collect data from rice and maize stock. We only heard on air some time ago that buffer stock said the money that the Ministry of Finance released to them, they exhausted or they finished purchasing. So we went back to our members across the community to find out whether they are aware of any buffer stock people coming to purchase or to procure from them. None of them were able to tell us that they saw people from buffer stock coming to buy. So we are worried.
Dr. Nyaba lamented that the agreed price at which rice was to be purchased is not the amount the farmers are receiving.
Warehouses are full with rice. Some of the rice are actually going back because some farmers after harvesting could not bring them to the nearest places where they will be sold. Contrary to prices that we agree on 5 cedis per kilo for paddy rice, they are buying 2 cedis, 50 pesos per kilo from the farmers. So if we all agree and set a price, and if you either have a capacity to buy and store and in anticipation that government will come and buy, why will we bring the farmers so low to understand that they cannot go back to farm again?
He called on government to set up an independent body to monitor the enforcement of his directive.
We will actually be happy for the president to look for an independent body to execute this. But to rely on the same appointees in the past who disappointed us to do the same thing, it will not make any difference.
That was a News Desk report. We stay on agriculture because the grounds of the La Nkwantanan Medina Municipal Assembly have been transformed into a massive poultry hub this morning. This is part of the government's Nkoko and Kitinkiti initiative, where a total of 10,000 birds are being distributed to 200 households within the assembly. Each household receives 50 birds as a startup. Data indicates that Ghana currently spends between $300 million and $400 million annually on imported poultry meat and related products, reflecting the country's heavy reliance on frozen chicken and other poultry products from overseas suppliers. The Nkoko Kitinkiti program is a flagship poultry development initiative, therefore introduced by the government as part of its Feed Ghana agenda to transform the agricultural value chain and strengthen food security. And my colleague put together this report for us, Samuel Adams' report here for you.
So I would use the platform to encourage the people of Ghana that we are faced with a number of challenges. Human needs, they say, are insatiable. There is no government that can solve all our problems. What that means is that every citizen owes personal obligations to support government to be empowered. And so if government today has taken this bold initiative to bring these birds to us, I would want to encourage every household that is a beneficiary that we take good care of these birds. If for nothing at all, let's also show responsibility towards this place, their care and making sure that they grow, and not only grow. Government has actually assured that when you have taken good care of them, there's a program or there is a plan that government will buy these beds from households, and that economically empowers them for them to buy more beds so they can continue with their trade. And so for me, it's a model that can work if only everyone is willing to take personal obligation, where we don't want to shift the burden back to government. We shouldn't see it as a charity model where we think that, I've seen situations where people have seen their best and some are already been killing their best for their own, chicken lice soup. That's not what you are supposed to do. I'm begging you, don't go and be killing the best for your chicken lice soup and say that because His Excellency Joman has brought out tikiti, suddenly your taste has changed and you are now eating chicken lice soup every weekend. That is not the essence of the tikiti. The essence of the tikiti is for you to be economically empowered. Take care of them, let them grow, create a business out of it, become an entrepreneur out of it, so that together we can build the Ghana we want. This is part of the research agenda. Let's help His Excellency John Dramani Mahama so that this research agenda will be fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Samuel Adams filed that report. He joins us live on the line now. Samuel, you've been at Medina this morning. What can you report of the situation?
Thank you very much, Beatrice. So this morning, the Lanquantan and Medina Municipal Assembly saw the distribution of 210,000 poultry beds for 200 households. And then when I spoke to the director for Agric, Lydia Aku, she told me that the beds are well fed. They are 6 weeks old broilers and will be ready for market in a few weeks' time. This translates into the reason that soon the locals who have been empowered will also be able to sell and then produce some of the beds on the market to gain income. And then the MCE, that is Alhaji Ibrahim, also mentioned that aside intensive monitoring, aside making sure that the locals adhere to or align to government Nkokon project, the mission of the project, they will also make sure that they give veterinary support, timely veterinary support for the locals, so that they will be able to ensure that even when diseases strike, the poultry beds will be healthy, and then the vision that they have for the project will be successful.
Thank you very much, Samuel Adams, reporting live from Medina. Now, the Health Minister, Kwabena Kanda, has told Parliament that 1,038 cases of mpox have been recorded as of March 3, 2026, with 8 deaths confirmed. And we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. That's it for the Midday News on Shrew FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to shrewnews.com for more news.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Middle East conflict disrupts gold transport routes to Dubai, raising concerns about potential pressure on the Ghana cedi as export dollar inflows slow. Meanwhile, Agribusiness Chamber urges government to suspend fertilizer import duties and secure emergency supplies as Hormuz crisis threatens Ghana's food production. And government exceeds Treasury bill targets by nearly 90% as investor demand remains strong despite declining interest rates. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories coming up shortly. Please stay. We head straight into our top story now. Disruptions to air traffic across the Middle East due to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran could begin to weigh in on the Ghanaian cedi as delays in gold shipments threaten one of the country's most important sources of foreign exchange inflows. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. Concerns are mounting over Ghana's energy security as global oil supply disruptions threaten fuel availability and price stability. Crude oil prices have already crossed the $80 mark, intensifying fears of further volatility. The Petroleum Hub Development Corporation, created under the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation Act of 2020, was tasked with developing a petroleum and petrochemical hub to strengthen Ghana's position in the global energy market.
One would have thought that as a country 69 years old, we should be energy sufficient, we should be self-reliant. Unfortunately, we are still doing about 80-70% of our in-country demand from these Gulf regions. If we should have had these tank farms in place, I believe that we'll be self-reliant and will be secured.
Speaking at a strategic engagement with civil society organizations, management said preparations are underway to commence construction this year.
We've given ourselves internally, and of course, what we do depends on other people. But we, in our dream, we think that by June, we should have gone around the issue of land acquisition, so that by end of the year, we would have started something.
Civil society representatives, however, voiced concerns about delays and setbacks that have hampered progress on the project.
I am very much disappointed that for almost 4 years, government has not been able to pay for the compensation needed to be able to acquire the land. And I think that time is of the essence.
Now, that report was rather on disruptions to... we'll bring you that particular report shortly, but what you just heard really was on amid recent geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Ghana's Petroleum Hub Development Corporation says the situation highlights the urgency of securing the country's energy future. Management had confirmed plans to begin work on the hub site later this year. Now, we'll take you back to our earlier story on some concerns over the impact of Middle East on Ghana's gold route.
The chamber explains that the Strait of Hormuz accounts for a significant share of global fertilizer-related commodities, including about 31% of the world's urea, 44% of sulfur, 18% of ammonia, and 15% of processed phosphates. According to the chamber, these disruptions are particularly concerning for Ghana because the country produces no primary fertilizer inputs domestically and relies entirely on imports. Data from the chamber indicates that Ghana imported more than 554,000 metric tons of fertilizer in 2024 alone. It warns that rising global prices and supply shortages could significantly increase input costs for farmers just as the country approaches its peak fertilizer procurement period in April and May. The chamber also cautions that Ghana entered the crisis with existing vulnerabilities, including high food prices, lower crop yields due to recent drought conditions, and national food insecurity levels already estimated at more than 38%. To cushion the impact, the chamber is urging government to implement emergency measures, including the suspension of fertilizer import tariffs, urgent procurement from Morocco's OCP group, financial support for fertilizer importers and farmers, and the establishment of a national fertilizer strategic reserve. The chamber further called on farmers across the country to continue planting despite the uncertainty, while adopting strategies such as micro-dosing fertilizer and intercropping with legumes to maintain yields with lower input use. It also stressed the need for Ghana to accelerate long-delayed plans to build domestic fertilizer production capacity in order to reduce future dependence on global supply chains.
And that report was from the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, which is calling on government to urgently suspend fertilizer import duties and secure emergency fertilizer supplies from alternative producers, warning that disruptions to global supply caused by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz could threaten Ghana's food production this planting season. Away from that now, investor demand for short-term government of Ghana treasuries remained strong despite declining interest rates. The latest auction results released by the Bank of Ghana show that government significantly exceeded its target, attracting bids of about 10.77 billion cedis against a target of 5.67 billion cedis. There is more in this report.
Despite the government setting a target of 5.679 billion cedis, total bids from investors reached 10.764 billion cedis, more than doubling the initial requirement. The government accepted 6.138 billion cedis, slightly exceeding its target but remaining selective amid the aggressive bidding. Subscription rate was 189.53%, while the oversubscription rate was 89.53%. The auction received 5.085 billion cedis more in bids than the original target, representing an 89.53% surplus in demand. This high demand helped drive down interest rates across the 91-day, 182-day, and 364-day tenors. 91-day bill, the most popular instrument, received bids of 5.211 billion cedis, while government accepted 3.471 billion cedis at a yield of 4.83%. The 182-day bill received offers of 1.955 billion cedis, with government taking 946 million cedis at an interest rate of 6.3%. Bids for the one-year paper, the 364-day bill, amounted to 3.596 billion cedis, while government accepted 1.72 billion cedis at a yield of 9.35%. Three business analysis suggests the continued decline in yields reflects an easing inflationary environment and a strategic move by government to lower its borrowing costs.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. To bring you updates now on the gold route for Ghana and concerns raised about it.
Ghana's currency could face renewed pressures if the conflict in the Middle East continues to disrupt air transport routes used to ship gold to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. The development is significant because Dubai remains the dominant destination for Ghana's small-scale gold exports. Data from the Ghana Gold Board shows that the country exported more than 103,000 kilograms of small-scale gold in 2025. Of that, over 72% was shipped to Dubai, while about 25% went to India. Together, the two markets accounted for nearly 99% of Ghana's small-scale gold exports. However, the conflict between Israel and Iran has triggered the closure of several airspaces across the Middle East, slowing the transport route used to move gold from Ghana to Dubai. That disruption is now affecting the steady inflow of export dollars that have helped stabilize the cedi over the past year. Under the current arrangement, the Ghana Gold Board purchases gold from small-scale miners in cedis, exports the metal, and returns the foreign currency proceeds to the Bank of Ghana. Those dollars are then supplied to the domestic foreign exchange market, but the shipment slowing due to airspace restrictions. The inflow of export proceedings has also weakened, Reports also suggest that traders in Dubai are already selling gold at steep discounts as storage facilities fill up and movement of refined gold to final buyers become more difficult. Analysts warned that if the disruption persists, buyers could demand deep discounts from suppliers such as Ghana.
And that's how we end today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please visit our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe.